The 1980s, neon, hairspray, and beats that owned every dance floor. Pop stars ruled like royalty. MTV crowns, sold-out tours, millions in their pockets. Yet, behind the glamour, the truth was ruthless. Taylor Dayne, the voice that powered Tell It to My Heart and Love Will Lead You Back, lived it all. In her memoir and raw interviews, she exposes the cracks. Predatory shadows in clubs, label wars that crushed creativity, and fame that isolated more than it elevated. Her story isn't just hers. It reflects the hidden toll on every icon we worshipped. From desperate gambles to silent breakdowns, she reveals why the decade's brightest stars often burned out fastest. Ready to see the real 1980s pop machine? Let's start with the name change that launched her and saved her.
Leslie Wonderman never felt like a pop star name. In 1985, the 23-year-old singer from Long Island sat in a cramped Manhattan studio, staring at a demo tape that cost her $3,000 she didn't have. Her father had loaned it, a last-ditch lifeline after years of club gigs paid in tips and broken promises. A producer leaned in and said, "Leslie sounds like the girl next door. We need mystery, edge, something that screams superstar." That night, she flipped through fashion magazines, landed on a photo of actor Taylor Dayne, and decided, drop the E, make it Dayne, and suddenly the ordinary became electric. But the gamble went deeper than a name. Labels in the 80s demanded total transformation, hair extensions, sequined minis, a persona that erased the real person. Taylor borrowed the money, recorded Tell It to My Heart in one sleepless week, and watched it rocket to number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100. Overnight, she was the dance floor queen. Yet that same system forced peers into impossible molds. One wrong image tweak, and radio play vanished. Some cracked under the pressure, reinventing themselves until nothing authentic remained. Taylor's borrowed bet paid off, but she saw the cost up close. Friends who changed names, faces, even voices, only to disappear when the next trend hit. And the real fight? That was just beginning in the studio trenches.
Fresh off Tell It to My Heart, Taylor Dayne walked into Arista Records in 1987 expecting celebration. Instead, she met Clive Davis, the man who signed Whitney Houston and shaped 80s pop like a sculptor with a hammer. He slid a contract across the table. 4 albums, no creative veto, and a sound that would chase every trend. Taylor pushed back. She wanted ballads with grit, not just dance tracks. Davis countered that ballads were risky. The market wanted sweat and synthesizers. Their first meeting turned into a shouting match that left assistants frozen outside the door. In the end, she signed, but the war never stopped. Every session became a battlefield. Producers demanded she mimic Madonna's breathy hooks or Cyndi Lauper's quirk. When she refused, tracks were shelved, budgets slashed. One engineer even played her vocal through a filter to soften her power, claiming her natural belt scared radio programmers. Taylor learned fast. The hit machine didn't create stars, it manufactured them. She watched label mates crumble under the same pressure. Voices altered until they sounded like strangers on their own records. Some walked away broke, others stayed and lost themselves. Taylor fought for every note, sneaking late-night overdubs to keep her edge. The result? Prove Your Love and Don't Rush Me, hits that carried her stamp despite the system. But the real danger wasn't in the booth. It was waiting in the clubs after dark.
By 1988, Taylor Dayne's face glowed from every jukebox in New York City. After midnight, the real world began. She'd slip into clubs like The Saint or Limelight, chasing a moment of normalcy amid the strobe lights and bass lines. One night at a crowded after-hour spot in Chelsea, a man in an expensive suit cornered her near the bar. He claimed to be a radio promoter with connections at every major station. His hand slid up her arm, his breath hot with whiskey, promising airplay in exchange for a private meeting. Taylor froze. The bouncer was across the room. The crowd swallowed her voice. She twisted free, heart hammering, and fled to the street. That wasn't the only time.
Female artists swapped stories like currency. The manager who locked dressing room doors, the DJ who demanded favors for spins, the photographer who angled shots lower than agreed. In the 80s, protection meant carrying mace in sequined purses. Taylor started traveling with a male friend, posing as security, but even that couldn't stop the whispers. One rising star vanished from a Los Angeles party, resurfaced weeks later with bruises and a new manager. Another quietly settled with a label exec after photos surfaced. The industry called it networking. Taylor calls it survival. She learned to scan exits, trust no one in a suit, and keep her success loud enough to drown out the threats. Yet the isolation grew heavier than any spotlight. And when the 90s rolled in, the fade-out began faster than anyone expected.
In 1990, Taylor Dayne stood atop the world. 3 platinum albums, 16 weeks at #1, and a voice that still echoed from every roller rink in America. Then the tide turned overnight. Grunge exploded out of Seattle, hip-hop seized urban radio, and suddenly her dance pop anthems sounded like relics from a hairspray-soaked past. Arista executives called her into a glass-walled conference room and delivered the verdict: reinvent or disappear. They wanted flannel shirts, acoustic guitars, maybe a rap feature. Taylor stared at the mood board of Nirvana posters and laughed. She refused to trade leather for lumberjack chic. The label responded by shelving her third album for 18 months. Tracks leaked anyway, but without promotion, they vanished into bargain bins. Radio stations that once begged for exclusives now played her old hits on throwback blocks at 3 in the morning. Meanwhile, younger acts, barely 20, with fresh faces and cheaper contracts, flooded the charts. One teen sensation scored Taylor's exact studio slot the week her record finally dropped. The message was clear: the machine had moved on. Financially, the blow landed harder. Merchandise deals from the 80s funneled pennies to her pocket. Touring costs soared while ticket sales dipped. She discovered her manager had skimmed royalties to fund a side venture. Lawsuits followed, draining savings meant for a house. Friends from the peak days stopped returning calls. Success had been a crowded room, but obscurity echoed. Taylor scraped together club residencies in Atlantic City, performing to half-empty rooms that once sold out stadiums. She watched peers fare worse. Some filed bankruptcy, others chased reality shows that mocked their former glory. The 90s didn't just shift tastes, it erased entire genres overnight. Yet the darkest shadows weren't in the charts. They lurked on the Sunset Strip, where rock and pop collided in a haze of excess. Taylor Dayne never lived on the Sunset Strip, but every 80s pop star felt its pull. After tours, she'd land in Los Angeles for promo, and the invitations poured in. Private parties in the Hollywood Hills, after parties at the Rainbow Room, limos idling outside the studio with mirrors already dusted. The crossover crowd, hair metal gods, new wave princesses, session players chasing the next gig, blurred lines between genres and sanity. One night in 1989, she walked into a mansion bash thrown by a platinum producer. The air reeked of cocaine and chlorine from the glowing pool. A guitarist from a band that opened for her tour pulled her aside, eyes glassy, and offered a line to keep the energy up. She declined. Hours later, paramedics carried him out on a stretcher. The official story called it exhaustion. That was the code. Exhaustion meant a heart that stopped after too many nights chasing the high that matched the highs on stage. Taylor saw the pattern repeat. A female backup singer vanished mid-tour, resurfaced in a tabloid with track marks and a new boyfriend who managed her money. Another pop-rock hybrid act, famous for power ballads, checked into a desert rehab under a fake name after collapsing backstage. Labels hushed it all. Publicists spun creative breaks while lawyers buried medical reports. The Strip wasn't just a party zone, it was a pipeline. Managers slipped envelopes of powder to keep acts docile during 16-hour video shoots. Roadies carried kits in guitar cases.
One tour bus Taylor boarded had a built-in minibar stocked with vials labeled like vitamins. She poured them down the sink when no one watched. The toll showed in hollow cheeks and canceled shows. Whispers circulated about stars who partied too hard and never resurfaced. Careers ending not with a bang, but a quiet overdose in a hotel suite. Taylor stayed clean, but the guilt lingered. Could she have pulled friends out sooner? The isolation that started in the 90s only deepened when the world locked down decades later, mirroring the loneliness she thought she'd left behind.
Fast forward to New Year's Eve 2020. Taylor Dayne steps onto a Mar-a-Lago stage, maskless crowd roaring beneath crystal chandeliers, fireworks exploding over Palm Beach. The gig pays the mortgage, keeps the lights on after a year of canceled tours. Social media erupts within hours. Fans call her reckless, a pandemic profiteer. She fires back on Twitter, "I'm a working musician, not a politician." The backlash stings, but it also feels eerily familiar. Isolation has stalked her since the 80s, only now it's amplified by algorithms. Back then, the loneliness came in hotel suites, after sold-out shows, room service trays piling up, no one to call at 3 in the morning. On the road, she'd dial her parents' collect from payphones, voice cracking over static. Fame built walls higher than any arena. When the 90s stripped her chart power, the silence grew louder. Friends ghosted, invitations dried up, and the phone stopped ringing except for bill collectors. The pandemic simply digitized the same void. Zoom calls replaced green room laughter. Live streams swapped real applause for heart emojis. Taylor watched peers spiral in real time. One 80s icon posted manic rants at dawn. Another vanished from Instagram after cryptic posts about ending the noise. Rehab admissions spiked among former chart toppers, quietly buried under COVID headlines. Taylor kept performing drive-in shows to empty parking lots, headlights blinking like distant stars. The Mar-a-Lago firestorm forced her to confront the pattern. Every decade, the industry finds new ways to leave its survivors alone. Yet the cruelest isolation struck in July 2022, when a routine colonoscopy delivered a word no anthem could drown out.
July 2022. Taylor Dayne sits in a sterile Manhattan office, fluorescent lights humming overhead, doctors sliding grainy images across the desk. Polyps. Stage 2 colon cancer. The words hit harder than any label rejection. She'd ignored the fatigue, chalked up the cramps to tour stress, the blood to hemorrhoids from decades of tight costumes. Now, the truth stared back. The machine that demanded perfection had masked a slow-motion emergency. Chemo started within weeks, 6 rounds that stripped 20 pounds and every strand of hair. Mornings blurred into nausea, nights into bargaining prayers, whispered to a ceiling that never answered. By round 4, the darkness crept in deeper than any 80s afterparty. She booked a one-way ticket to Hawaii, told her twins it was a healing retreat, and privately mapped an exit, a final sunset on Lanai, pills tucked in a vitamin bottle, the ocean swallowing a voice that once filled stadiums. The plan felt merciful. Fame had taught her how to disappear. This would be the ultimate fade-out. Then a text from an old backup singer pinged through. "Remember the night we sang Love Will Lead You Back a cappella in that airport lounge? Your low note saved me." The memory cracked the plan wide open. Taylor canceled the solo trip, checked into a wellness center instead, and clawed back with green juices and stubborn rage. Surgery removed the tumor in December 2022. Scans in 2025 show no trace. She speaks publicly now, urging 45-year-olds to schedule the scope they keep postponing. The 80s ignored gut health the way it ignored mental health, both buried under adrenaline and applause. Taylor's brush with the edge reframes every prior battle. The predators, the fade-outs, the isolation. They were dress rehearsals for the fight that nearly ended the show. And the lessons she carries forward rewrite the entire script of survival.
Taylor Dayne never set out to be the keeper of 80s pop secrets, but life handed her the keys anyway. From a borrowed $3,000 demo to a cancer ward in Manhattan, she walked the tightrope every icon feared, the one stretch between dazzling highs and invisible lows. She watched names change, voices bend, Bodies break and careers vanish overnight, all while the world danced to the beat. The predators in the clubs, the executives in the boardrooms, the powders on the mirrors, the silence after the applause. None of it was unique to her. It was the price of admission, stamped on every platinum record. Yet she also proved the exit door swings both ways, by refusing the flannel, dumping the vials, and choosing life over lanai. She turned survival into testimony. Today's streaming stars chase viral moments in filtered bedrooms, but the machine still hums the same tune. Reinvent, perform, disappear when the algorithm moves on. Taylor's story whispers a warning and a dare. Look closer at the gloss, schedule the test, speak the unsaid. Because the real chart topper isn't the hit single. It's the quiet morning you wake up whole, voice intact, ready to sing whatever comes next. So next time an 80s anthem blasts from your speakers, hear the grit beneath the synth. That's Taylor Dayne, still belting the truth the spotlight tried to mute. If you loved this deep dive into Taylor Dayne's untold 80s survival story, hit that like button and subscribe to Retro Celeb Talk for more raw, behind-the-scenes revelations from the legends who define pop. Drop a comment. Which 80s icon's hidden chapter should we uncover next? Turn on the bell so you never miss a beat, and share this with every friend who still cranks Tell It to My Heart in the car. Let's keep the neon truth alive. See you in the next one.